Good morning, everyone. How are we doing this morning? All right. Well, let's get started.
Welcome. That's it for me.
That's
it.
That's too early.
I was expecting a joke or something. Good morning, everyone. So, I start?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have the chance to introduce someone very special with us today. Her name is Corinne Hancock, and she's here to talk about chaos. And in working in life, we're put to the test not when things go right, but when they go wrong. That's when we really see our character show up and how our teams react. And when they get chaotic, we get answers or we need help. And how we react can be the difference between success and failure and determine whether a team comes together or completely falls apart. Unexpected challenges and changes are often outside of our control and can occur in a moment's notice. Does it sound familiar? Have you guys had a chaotic 2 past years? I think we all did. And we're here to learn. Stephanie?
Yes, so our next speaker, Corinne Hancock, is a globally recognized expert in building world-class leaders, effective teams, and cultural proficiency in chaotic environment. With over a decade of international aid and development experience working around the world, developing bold leaders, she brought together multi-generational, multicultural teams to train leaders, open clinics, deliver medical care in some of the most remote locations on the planet. She helps leaders thrive in chaos, and she will share with us today how you can do the same.
And we just learned that on Friday, she got her doctorate in business administration. So congratulations, Corinne. Before we invite her to the stage, we're going to take a look and learn at a video.
What really led me to this obsession with chaos is that I've lived and worked in it for my entire career as an international aid and development worker. I'm the founder of the Curiosity Project, a nonprofit organization that drives social impact by providing health and entrepreneurial opportunities. We lead medical and training teams that travel to remote villages in low-income countries. The teams are multicultural, multi-generational, with widely varied personalities and skill sets. As you can imagine, every type of chaos that can happen is going to happen. We're going into new and uncertain situations with all of the same challenges that companies face. Challenging team dynamics, resource constraints, and unexpected changes to, well, anything and everything. In every moment, something is going to change. You just don't know when it's going to happen. As a global health worker, you learn how to prepare for chaos and what to do when it hits. In business and in life, we're put to the test not when things are going right, but when things get chaotic. How we react can be the difference between success and failure. You can't avoid chaos, but you can learn to use it to your advantage.
All right, welcome, good morning. So you guys a little hungover this morning, or it was a little slow start? All right, first things first. If you have laces in your shoes and they are brown, will you please stand up? So you have brown shoes on and they have laces. Okay, you guys stand up. All right, you're switching tables with someone who has black shoes on with no laces. So you have to find, and then ladies, if you have some heels on, you're switching with someone who has flip-flops. Not shoes, just like moving tables. Okay, so like you're moving to that table. Yeah, like switching to, what color are your shoes? Okay, if you have tennies on, you guys, I'm kidding. Like, did you think I was gonna actually do that to you? We're gonna sing Kumbaya next. I'm totally kidding. No, we're talking about chaos. So what is your relationship with chaos? Like actually your relationship, not how do you deal with it. Clearly if you're in this room, you're already an expert at thriving in chaos. But what is your actual relationship? Clearly, mine is a little codependent. I sort of love it. It makes me feel alive. It makes me feel like I do my best work in it. Some would say I'm a little bit of a chaos causer, but what about all of you? What would you say your actual relationship is? How does it feel? Do you love it? A little bit? Makes you feel alive, like you do your best work in it? Well, when I hang out with leaders and when I hang out with all of you, I get a very similar response. We're really good at it. We may have a love-hate relationship, but the truth is you live in it so much you don't even realize that you're in it all the time. So when I work with teams, though, and I ask them this question, what do you think their first response is? They love it or they hate it? Hate it. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Who's causing it? All of you. Now, if they don't think that you're causing it, they think it's your job to protect them from it. And here's the truth, it's not. We're always going to be experiencing these unexpected events. So just by a show of hands, how many of you have been on a hot air balloon ride? Just you? Oh, there's a couple in the back. Okay, all right, fine. How many would like to go on a hot air balloon ride then? Okay, that's all right, good. All right, any of you that are like, absolutely not, I have no desire for this? Okay, so I'm just gonna let you guys know, this story will not convince you to go hot air balloon riding, but do not let it dissuade you, okay? So, and for those of you who didn't want to go anyway, you get to be right, so good job. Anyway, I am a 5th generation Colorado native, 4th generation family business. My great-grandfather started a trucking company. It turned into a moving and storage company. Then we moved into cranes and all of the drama that comes with a family business in heavy machinery, trucking, storage, warehouses, and then we decided to do a few self-serve car washes as well. So my childhood was spent very much mucking out car wash stalls, doing crazy work with my grandfather, and it was a good one. My sister, 9 years younger than me, very different experience, and our work ethic is just a little different, let's just say that. So anyway, it's about 1989, and my grandfather is the sponsor of the Hot Air Balloon Festival in Colorado Springs, and he has access to this giant strawberry balloon. So he thinks, oh my gosh, what an incredible opportunity to give my one and only daughter, my mom, and my super cute granddaughter, me, this experience of a lifetime, right? We're gonna go in a hot air balloon. So we get to the field and there's balloons everywhere and we find the giant strawberry balloon. And we walk up to the strawberry and it's amazing, and we meet Jack, the 25-year veteran pilot, because my grandfather's gonna make sure we have the best of the best taking us up on this experience. And when we meet Jack, he's this great guy, he's helping us load in the basket, he's throwing stuff in. It's this gorgeous sunny day, so he takes off his jacket, he hands it to his wife, he loads in the basket, he starts throwing the sandbags in, and what's the sound it makes when they pull that cord, right? And the heat just blows down on you, and I don't care how old you are or what life experiences you've had, you are in a basket being lifted up by a balloon with hot air. I mean, it's truly science in the making. It's absolutely incredible. And with each pull of the cord, the balloon just keeps rising higher and higher. And I don't really have any expectations of really, well, how high are we going, or how long is this trip gonna be? But I can't believe how high we actually go. So with every pull, the balloon just keeps rising. And everything around us starts getting smaller and smaller down below. I'm watching my grandfather's Jeep off in the distance now turn into this little small Hot Wheels car, and it's just absolutely incredible. Well, for those of you who have been, which just seems to be this corner over here, you may remember that there's a place where the balloon reaches the elevation, and the air just seems to stop. It becomes quiet, almost eerie. It's beautiful though. You have this 360-degree view, everything below is small, and all you're hearing is the and feeling that heat on you. Do you guys remember that? Quiet. Well, in that moment of calm, what seemed like out of nowhere, this microburst of air blasts through the basket. It was like, blew the pilot light right out. Jack looks up, starts like reaching in all of his pockets. And now his face turns to panic, and he starts rummaging through all these leather bags. He's throwing stuff everywhere. He grabs these old white crusty helmets, throws them at my mom and I. Get these on! Squat down in the corner, because we're going down, and when we hit, we're gonna hit hard. What? Oh my God, so now it's total chaos, right? My mom's like trying to put my helmet on, my head's bopping around, her hands are shaking. You know, Jack's working these ropes and working these ropes. There's this huge highway on one side, this huge field on the other. I assume he's sort of trying to navigate us towards that field. But let's think about my grandfather for a moment. My grandfather is on the ground watching this experience that he's created for his beloved family, and it is now completely outside of his control. He's watching his giant strawberry become moldy and his family literally falling out of the sky. So I don't remember much of the falling portion. I just remember it being totally chaotic, lots of yelling, and right before we hit the ground, I remember Jack saying, "Get down, it's coming, are you ready?" And then bam! And when we hit the ground, you guys, we hit so hard on the corner of the basket that it just ejected us out of the basket like a bunch of apples tumbling through the field. I have like sticks in my hair and bleeding, gushing, you know, out of my knee. But I remember looking up and seeing that the huge strawberry had wrapped itself around one of those giant highway light poles. I think that's really the only thing that saved our lives. So you see how this story doesn't motivate you to go hot air balloon riding? That's not the point of it. But for those of you who raised your hands, still go. It's going to be great. It was a really long time ago, way more safety features, right? And bring a lighter and, you know, and yes, true. Okay, no, I haven't been since. That's always the question I get, but not because I'm afraid. Just the opportunity hasn't been around. But anyway, dramatic story about chaos. But this is actually exactly how it goes. We start out with great intentions. Now, you know, I told you I like to cause chaos, but it's not to cause harm, right? It's to always, like, we think it's a great idea. But sometimes things just change. So let's differentiate those something for a moment. Let's differentiate this idea of a crisis versus chaos. Because crises are happening all the time. They're unexpected events. You probably even had some this morning. You've had them coming here. They happen all the time. But the chaos, actual confusion and disorder, is potentially the reaction to the event. So, does chaos always happen when the unexpected hits? No, of course not, right? I want you to think about something in your life that just changed outside of your control, but the outcome was actually good. Right? Maybe there was something in a regulation that just changed that actually worked in your favor. Or maybe an employee, potential employee, actually shows up for their interview, makes it through their first 90 days, passes their drug test, and actually stays working. That would be amazing, right? So what do you actually feel in that moment? What do you feel when something changes outside of your control, but the outcome is good? Not surprised. I know sometimes it is a little bit of a surprise, but maybe some excitement, gratitude, pride. It's still not our, like, we can't make people do things. I know we think we can, but we actually can't. They're still choosing for themselves. We may influence them. So I want you to just think about it. It happens all the time throughout your day. Now I want you to flip it to a pilot light moment. Something just changed outside of your control, but the outcome is not so good. You probably can think of things that have happened. They come in all shapes and sizes, right? An employee just quitting out of nowhere. I was working with a company a few weeks ago, and no joke, right? I do a ton of work in crisis mitigation, crisis prep, like fires, active shooters, those kinds of things. That's like, we actually are kind of better at that than this story. So I'm with a company a few weeks ago, and they do steel manufacturing, and their warehouse manager, Janet, she's been there for 27 years. Janet runs everything. She knows everything. Everything is literally still on yellow pads. They keep trying to get her to use the software system that they installed 3 years ago, but she refuses to use it. It's all in here and on her yellow pads. And one day, Janet goes to coffee, And everyone's like, where's Janet? Has anyone seen her? And everyone's like, no, I don't know. They go into her office, her computer, her badge, her cell phone, and a sticky note that says, I'm done. Don't call me, is sitting in her office. That was a worse pilot light blowout moment than a fire. Like truly, because everyone is now running around like, what the heck do we do now? We don't know anything. Janet knows everything, and she just ghosted them, like stopped talking to them. And I don't know about you, but I hear these stories quite a bit lately. So I want you to think about that for a moment. These are these other types of moments, like something just changed outside of your control. All of a sudden, you know, with the supply chain, things are stuck, we can't get them, or pricing just changed astronomically, and we have to go to our customers and be like, oh, guess what we're doing again today? So what do you actually say to yourself when you read that email or you answer the phone? Honestly, what's the first thing you say? Thank you. Yes. It is always some version of, oh, fill in the blank. It is, and it is human to have a reaction to an unexpected event. If you didn't, we could then talk about the sociopath conversation later, so we'll talk about that later, but it is absolutely human to have a reaction. Now, I'm a cultural anthropologist by trade. That's what I studied, and my dad was an officer in the Army. You can imagine when that was my first degree, he was like, what? But I study human behavior. I study human behavior specifically in chaotic environments, how we make change in chaos. So there's actually only 3 default reactions. So the unexpected event hits. Now, this will be hard for all of you to see because we move through it so quickly. Like I said, you live and breathe it every day, so you don't even realize. You're like, I just say, oh crap, and then I fix it. Slow your brain down for a minute. Here's the 3 that they are. Now notice it for yourself and notice it for those around you, your family, your coworkers. The first group is the avoiders, right? The unexpected hits, the pilot light gets blown out, they're like, oh, not it. It's not in my job description. It's not, nope, above my pay grade, right? Now, I will warn you, I can be a little cynical. I've been working with a lot of teams over the past 2 years, as you can imagine, and I know you all have perfect employees, but I hear a few stories that may beg to differ on some of it. So the next group is the blamers. They go straight to blame. Whose fault is it? How can I like put this on someone else, like throw it over there, blame it somewhere else? The next group is the complainers. They're the ones after the meeting that are like, oh my God, can you believe we're even doing this? So stupid, I don't know why we're doing this. Or my favorite lately is when I'm on Zoom and I can see all the people's faces and you can see 2 people typing and you can see their facial expressions and you know they're just talking crap to each other. You're like, oh my God, like come on, this is ridiculous. So I call this though the ABCs. So I want you to think about it for yourself. Because like I said, for the past 2 years, I've been studying high-achieving leaders. And what I've realized is there's only one of these for us. What do you think ours is? Definitely we don't avoid it. What do? So I'm going to tell you, you say, oh crap, how did this happen? You blame someone for a microsecond, like mine is usually my poor assistant. I'm like, God, did she forget to send that? But then what do you say? How did I miss that? How did I miss that? The blame is actually on ourselves. It is so quick and it's so fast, you might not even be able to see it. Because yes, we move straight into solving. Because for us, the show must go on. There's no value in avoiding blaming and complaining. We know that. There's no value because also the buck stops with us. We have to solve it. So we may have one of these reactions. But like I said, over the past 2 years, what I've seen is almost all high-achieving leaders, like all of you in this room, it's blame. So just sort of keep that in your mind. It will be hard to see, but it's usually blame on ourselves, even if it's a microsecond. So what happens next, though? I believe that chaos, actual chaos, that confusion and disorder happens when we remain in those ABCs, in the avoiding, blaming, and complaining. Think about it. Think about your life. Think about on a family trip or on anything where something changes outside of your control. The kids are trying to get ready in the morning and someone, forgets their backpack and now it's all chaos on the way to school. But if this maybe is like coming for some of you in a few weeks or is already happening, and someone starts blaming someone, well, you didn't tell me to bring my backpack, and now it's chaos. So truly, it comes in all shapes and sizes, but I want you to just see how it happens. Because as leaders, like I said, everyone thinks that we should be the ones to protect them or make sure no unexpected events happen. Is that actually realistic? No. So what we're trying to do is move people faster out of the avoiding, blaming, and complaining. We have to do it. And the thing is that you're never, ever, ever going to be chaos proof, but you can be chaos ready. It's a totally different way of thinking about it. It's a different way to say, okay, we're not going to avoid these things. Can you actually control some of the supply chain things right now? No. I mean, we put some great things in place and we try to lobby and we try to do other things that maybe influence policy, and amazing associations like this work really hard. But in the moment that that truck doesn't show up, in the moment that that employee quits, that's when people slip into the avoiding, blaming, and complaining, and chaos starts to happen. Because it's up to us to help them move out of it faster. So you guys will see on your table, I gave you guys a little handout, a little assessment. You'll see that there's 10 questions on the back, and I just want you to just take a quick look at it. And if you don't have one, there's some on the other tables. But what I like to do, and I do this with teams a lot, I do it with executives, is I like to evaluate your chaos readiness. You'll notice that there's two columns. There's a company column, and there's also a family column. Because it was funny, just this morning I was just chatting with a few people in the lobby, and I said, oh, well, you got any chaos in your life? I may have asked you that question. And most people are like, I'm here. Like, this is amazing. I'm with you guys. It's kind of like a vacation, but back home, that's where my chaos is. And so I just want you to realize that our families and our companies are completely intertwined, no matter where you're at in that stage. So I'd love for you guys just to take a minute and look through those 10 questions. It's a 1 to 5 scale. 1 is a nope, 5 is a absolutely. And just notice what you notice. Notice what your brain says to yourself as you're filling it out. And if you don't have one, use them on the other tables. Jackie will throw some to you. You guys have one? You need one? There's some over here too. Just notice what you say to yourself as you're filling this out. Don't overthink it. Bless you. Do you guys think I was going to make you do math like first thing in the morning after you've been drinking all night? That's fun. Just helping you get your brains going. What's sort of your first swipe of observation? Not as high as you thought. Anyone feel like their companies are better prepared than their families? I'm definitely the saying of the cobbler's son who has no shoes. I have 2 teenage boys. And I work in conflict mediation, and they've been fighting for their whole lives together. They're less than 2 years apart. And they'll always be like, Mom, isn't this like what you do for a job? I know. So, what else? I want you guys to notice something. Questions 1 through 6 are very different than questions 7 through 10. Questions 1 through 6 are what? Like what you have. Questions 7 through 10 are what? Yeah, what you do. So that's interesting in itself. Here's what I want you to do next. I want you to look down your company column first. And I want you to circle the one that you are most proud of. Circle the one that you are most proud of for your company. And then do the same for your family. Which one are you most proud of for you personally? And notice where it comes from. Is it in the top 6 or is it in the bottom? Interesting. Again, this is all an observation. Now, I want you to look down your company column and put a check mark by the one that has the greatest impact on you in a frustrating or negative way. Do the same for your family as well. Put a check mark by the one that is the most frustrating to you personally, that impacts you. What do you notice now? Now, this is just an awareness tool. And again, this is sort of in the prep part of my model of being chaos ready and thriving in chaos. Because I find this very interesting to think about our lives through the lens. I've worked very hard in how those are written, how those questions are written. And I can tell you exactly where your chaos is going to show up in your company and in your life based on these evaluations. But I need other evaluations as well. So how would everyone in your life fill this out? Would your leadership team say the exact same things? Would your wife or your husband or partner say the exact same thing about your family? So this tool is very, very interesting in many ways because right now, you guys, we're in a very interesting stage of our society. Like, we're built on removing uncomfortability from the world. Like, that's what we try to do in America, in Europe, in Canada. Like, we always, our job is to make life comfortable. And right now, we keep trying to add all these new processes and new ideas and new things into the mix. But right now, most people are like, oh my gosh, I can't even figure out what just happened to my life over the past 2 years. So I've noticed that when I have some conversations with teams, and this is a way for you to do it with yours, without avoiding blaming and complaining. This is just a matter of perspective. Because for you right here, what did you put as the one that you're most proud of in your company? So that they have the right skills and right people, right? So he has the right skills and right people is what he said he's most proud of. Maybe I work for you and I'm short 4 guys. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, maybe we have the right people on your team, but not on mine. And so here's the interesting thing. We are run and we operate from our circles and our check marks. Look at your circles. They're probably the things you put the most effort towards. They're the things that you work the hardest on. So we're sort of driven by our circles, but our check marks is what we're going to blame when things change outside of our control, because they have the greatest impact on us. So wouldn't it be interesting to know everyone else's circles and check marks on your team? Not because it's oh, let's see where we measure up. It's not that kind of evaluation. This is having a real conversation about how people perceive things. So I just invite you to play with this. Let it sort of percolate in your mind. Don't be afraid to have real conversations right now. The past 2 years have created an unbelievable opportunity where we can now dig in a little bit deeper. Because there's an old saying that says, pain is inevitable, but the suffering is optional. So we've been feeling the pain. There has been a lot of things that have just been are you kidding me right now? But we can choose to suffer in it or not. We can choose to say, like, are we going to move through this, which all of you guys are doing. But this is what I want you to remember more than ever right now. This should be on a sticky note. It should be in front of you from now and forever, is that clarity equals security. Why do you think people stay in avoiding, blaming, and complaining when things change outside of their control? What does it give them? Some security. It gives them clarity. If I can blame you for why, like work is so overwhelming right now, it gives me enough clarity that makes me feel secure. So our job as leaders is to provide this clarity that helps people feel secure right now. Now, this will be kind of funny, but not. Our entire society right now is in a self-preservation mode. Anytime you put our finances or our health at risk, human beings go into a default self-preservation, like it's all about me. Now, people are not trying to suck right now. I know that may be hard to see, but you notice people are sort of short-tempered. They're very quick to react. They're having a hard time, going with the flow. People are like, I don't even know what the flow is anymore, right? People are just so reactionary right now. But it's because they have a lack of security. They don't feel safe. And so our job as leaders is to help them feel safe. But while you do that is create some clarity. But you all, I'm just going to be straight with you because I sit in so many of these meetings and you're like, here's our 5-year strategic plan and this is what we're doing. And I watch and I observe the human behavior in the audience and everyone's like, they don't give a shit, you guys. They do not care at all what's happening in the next 5 years. They want to know what's happening in the next month. Like, how can I survive the rest of summer? How can I get school started with my kids? And how can I just get my life together? Because all you're talking about, to me, it sounds like it just makes your life better, not mine. So right now, it's a different way to communicate. We have to communicate through the lens and through the filter that everyone is listening to whatever you're saying is, how does this impact me? Are you making my life better or worse? Now, I know that's hard. That's hard for us as leaders because we just want to say, you guys, get your pants on and get back to work, right? I mean, any of you sort of feel that way a little bit? Like, how many more accommodations do we need to make? How many more things do we need to do? How much do we need to keep paying people just to even show up to work on time? My grandfather would roll over in his grave if he heard some of the stories that I hear. But this is where we are. And so we can either embrace it and start to work forward and start to say, okay, well, how can we create this so it works for all of us? And the way that you're going to do it, the way you're going to get people to move forward is by providing some clarity. But it's clarity around right here, right now. You can still keep the big picture in mind, but it's the way that you present it. It's the way that you're being perceived. So the unexpected hits, right? We give a pilot light out moment. I'm sure some of you have had some already this week. It happens. I was with another company a few weeks ago again, and they're a huge memory care facility, and they're hosting their giant open house. And they're so excited. All of the executives from all over the world are coming in. They just had a huge, buyout, and all this exciting things are happening. They're about to do this big event, and right, probably 10 minutes before the event, the delivery truck drives up and smashes into the front window of the lobby. They're like, shit, right? But then what happens? You go into whose fault is it? What are we doing? But the doing is what you all are experts at. Like you said, we go to solving it straight away. Yes. So what do you actually do? Well, the first thing you're going to do is this. Right? Embrace the suck a little bit right now, you guys. There's some things that do really suck. And the way that you present this to your teams, to your people, it's not like, it's all going to be fine, right? No, some people feel like it kind of sucks right now. So this, I worked all over the world, spent most of my career overseas, and most of the work I do really sucks. Not going to lie, most of the work you do sucks. But it doesn't mean you're going to quit doing it because it sucks. It doesn't mean that it's not worth doing because it sucks. But right now, you're going to have to help people who have never had anything suck before happen. There's a lot of people in our society right now that this is the first hard thing that's ever happened to them. I know, just take that in for a minute. But it is. So how can we help them a little bit, not just say, like, get over it, embrace it a little bit, and then we move forward. Help people feel like it's okay for things to suck. So this is what you do instead. Like, you already do this so naturally, but I want you to sort of visualize it. So you have an ABC reaction, and then you ace it. It's like, bam, I ace it. Because what do you actually do? What do you think the A stands for? What do you do? Like, so something just happened, the pilot light gets blown out, you're like, gosh darn it, and then you blame someone, you blame yourself, and then what? You assess what's actually happening, you create a new plan, and you execute on it. So for my military folks, a little bit of a OODA, however you want to say it, it's a very much this orient, and right, you can decide and act, that's what you're doing here. So this is easy when you're by yourself. Think about it. You do it all the time by yourself. You're like, all right, this happened. I'm going to assess it, create a new plan, and execute on it. But you add some other people in the mix, and where do the ABCs creep back in? They're already right there at the assessing, right? Some people don't agree with you. They're like, no, that's not what happened. Tom was late. That's why this is happening. Okay, well, or your process sucks. You know, no one's ever filling out the invoices correctly. No one's sending anything. So all the blaming and complaining start at the assessing portion. Then usually you create a plan, or someone steps up and creates it. You get to the execution, and what happens? All the ABCs creep back in, because the people at the beginning that were frustrated are like, well, see, I told you that didn't work. Why didn't that work? And they're blaming and complaining about each other. So what is a current challenge in your business right now? What do you have? Think about this. Some pricing, people, not this guy, he's got all the right people. We got to talk to him later. I think, are you doing the next session? But just think about it for a minute. I want you guys to look at it through this lens. So think about a current challenge. Just pick one. It could be in your life too if you want. It works great for this. But now I want you to think about, what's the actual impact? What is it causing? What's it causing right now? Anyone have a issue with staffing, actually? Yeah. These guys back here. So what's that actually causing, having either a shortage of people or not the right people in the right seats? It's causing some overwhelm of your current employees. It's causing some frustration on your part, because now you're spending most of your time trying to figure out all this recruiting and like hiring and all these interviews, and people are mad that they're having to do interviews and people aren't showing up for the interviews, and everyone actually has another real job to do. So this whole thing is causing a bunch of frustration and overwhelm. But what are you actually worried about? What are you actually worried about? That your current employees might quit, right? But then your reputation starts to suffer. Like, let's just take it down the worst case scenario road. Now you're down on your profits, now la 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 la, now you're like, can't pay your bills, it's all about you. I'm just gonna be honest. I want you to see this. We operate from the minute something happens, we of course care about everyone else, but we're also looking at it through how it impacts us, ourselves. We're human beings, and that's okay. But if you look at it through that lens, you'll start to see that that's what everyone's doing. They're looking at it through, how does this impact me? And what's the worst thing that can happen? And it's weird because people almost live into the worst case scenario. And you're like, why do you want to be right about that? Why, I'll go into a company, they're like, oh my God, we're in a total shortage of staffing. We have no people, our teams are overwhelmed, and like everyone's going to quit. And you're like, did that happen yet? Well, no, but it's going to. And then they want to be right about it. You're like, why would you want to be right about that? So my grandmother used to say, quit borrowing trouble from the future. Quit borrowing trouble from the future. You've got plenty of it right here, right now. So I think that's an invaluable thing to think about right now, because most of the things that is on your worst case scenario, you guys, it's stuff that's so out of our control, but we're working on it every single day. We're working on it every day. That's what we are working on. So there's an old fable that I used to hear that literally changed my life, this fable around courage. And it was talking about how the lions hunt. Now, I know this isn't exactly how the lions hunt, but it's a fable. So the story goes, the lions get together, and the old lions with the mangy fur and the broken teeth, they're on one side of the savannah. And the young, fierce lionesses that are strong and powerful are on the other, waiting, crouched down in the tall grasses. The gazelle are grazing along in the middle, ears are perked, munching, and the old lions look at each other, and they say, okay, let's do this. And they start roaring, 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 causing complete chaos and pandemonium. And all the gazelle and antelope start running, running for their lives, directly into the mouths of the hungry lionesses, directly to their death. So the elders, they always tell their young ones, always run towards the roar. Always run towards the roar because that's where the safety lies. Well, I find that very interesting right now because all of you are always running towards the roar right now. You're running towards that worst case scenario. You're running towards all of these potential threats. And you're inviting everyone to come with you and your teams and everyone, and they're like, what are you doing? You're insane. I don't want to come with you. You're going to kill us all. But really, it's because of they're seeing it from a perceived threat versus an actual threat. So help people right now understand what is the real threat that they're facing. What is the actual threat? Are they all about to lose their jobs like tomorrow? Probably not exactly. But do they need to take care of some stuff and get some things going and get this backlog figured out, and we need to figure out and get some creativity going on some of these issues that we're facing? Absolutely. But we are always running towards the roar, and right now you're occurring very intimidating to people. I hang out with leaders every single day, and I then hang out with teams and I listen to what both sides are saying. And you guys, we see all the opportunities. We know right on the other side of this roar, right on the other side of these challenges are always our greatest accomplishments. All of these amazing opportunities that have come out of this challenge is pretty cool. I mean, how many of you are like, oh, expanding your business or acquired another one or have now offered new lines of service or different things that you weren't doing 2 years ago? A lot of you have shifted things up quite a bit. And your teams are like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can keep up. This is so overwhelming, but to us, it's fun. Ish, right? Maybe fun's an overstatement, but it's still something that brings us where we are. We're good at it. But remember that most people are feeling like you're running them towards their death. So remind them that that is not what's actually happening. We actually want to respond to the mission. What are you here to accomplish in the first place? Right? What are you actually trying to do? That's what you respond to. So yes, there are real challenges that are happening, but what is your actual mission? Now, I'm not saying your mission statement that is up, painted on your walls in your office, but to me, a mission has a start and an end. Now, you saw in that intro video that there was some mannequins and training type things going on. So most of the work I do overseas is in infant and maternal health training. So we train midwives to deliver babies safely and resuscitate babies that are born not breathing. And let's say my mission is I want to make sure every birth is attended by a trained, skilled midwife. That's a pretty big mission. Is it going to happen? Probably not, but I'll fight for that. I can work for that for my life. But you're on my team, and we're conducting a training in somewhere, and everything starts going wrong, right? Like our supplies get stuck at customs, 2 of my translators don't show up, I have one teammate that's sick, some people are arguing, and I'm like, we're gonna transform, birth around the world, and every midwife is going to be trained, and my team is looking at me like, we can't even figure out this training, so you might wanna come right here. So they start to lose a little bit of faith. Now, I'll still hold this big mission. But again, right now, it's all about the perception. It's about how you deliver this narrative. What needs to actually happen right now based on your current threats and challenges? You can't just keep coming at them from this huge, huge thing. It's way too overwhelming for people. When people feel overwhelmed, you're going to pull it in. Create micro missions. You do it naturally for yourself. You do it all the time. But how are you communicating to those around you? How do you communicate to your customers? How do you communicate to your people right now? If you can deliver things in a micro mission, something that I can actually accomplish this week, I feel like I'm winning. Right now, most people feel like they're failing at everything, or at least like doing everything at about a 75%, which for most people isn't acceptable. If you're sitting in this room, probably not for you. So pull it in right now. Pull it in how you're delivering your messages. Pull it in how you get people to say yes. Help people have wins right now. Help your customers have a win. Help your teammates. Don't get stuck in this avoiding, blaming, and complaining and just like, well, you know, the supply chain stuff. Like, no. How about let's say something that we can create today? What can we work on just today that's a micro mission that you could deliver to me that I could say, okay, I can actually do that. Now I'm starting to rebuild my confidence. Now I'm going to run with you towards that roar. So that's where it starts to say, well, who are you actually being? How are you occurring to all your people and your customers right now? Like I said, kind of intimidating. You're a pretty intimidating group because you can overcome anything. So here's what I want you to remember. Our greatest strengths are also our greatest weaknesses. So, especially in the midst of chaos. So I usually ask executives too, like, how would people describe you in times of chaos? What would people say about you? What are some of the good things they would say about you? Maybe like you're calm, you're collected. But what is the not so good things they would say? Like, if you're a calm cucumber, the negative is probably you're slow to react, you don't even care, you're disconnected, unemotional. Now, if they say in the positive that you're confident, direct, you just take action, what's some of the negatives that they may say about you? Little bossy, intimidating, right? Like, you can see how it depends. So several years ago, I was leading a medical training team in the Andes Mountains in Ecuador. And we'd been driving for hours, and we'd been going up and down the Andes Mountains. And I must have fallen asleep because we had just had this huge meal, and I'm asleep against this window. And all of a sudden, there's this huge smash, and there's glass everywhere. My face is bleeding. I'm like, what the heck just happened? I look straight up and blame our driver, Freddie, because I go straight to blame. And I'm like, oh my God, I think Freddie just fell asleep at the wheel. And by a complete miracle, because there's a rock wall in my face, I think he nodded off, pulling the steering wheel to the left, smashing us into the side of the mountain instead of the sheer cliff drop on the other side, which would have absolutely resulted in our deaths. So what happened next was really interesting, because I go straight into the ACE response, right? I'm like, I got mad, blamed Freddie, but now I'm like on it. I'm assessing the situation, making sure no one's injured. I'm creating a plan. I'm executing on it, directing people around. There's some people that are like me, and we're, you know, getting people off the bus and checking, and no one's really hurt. And in terms of a bus crash, honestly, it's kind of a lame one. Like, really, we just have a tire to fix and some glass to clean up. And there's all these people running around helping me. But then I look to the other side, and there's a little group of people, about 2 or 3. Some are crying, and some are like, oh my God, can you imagine if we would have got off the other side of the road? I would have like orphaned my children. This is the worst trip of my life. I want to go home. I hate this. I don't even know what to do with that. You guys, like my kids will tell you, unless you have an arterial bleed or you are on fire, I'm never going to be the one that's running over and being like, oh my gosh, do you need a hug? Are you okay? Now, the people who are helping me in that moment see me as what kind of leader? Effective, confident, direct. What about those people that are on the side of the road crying? What are they saying? Yeah, bossy, unemotional, I don't care, maybe irresponsible, all sorts of things, right? So here's what I want you to remember. You're not going to change this about yourself. Your strengths are your strengths, but they don't occur the same to everyone in times of chaos. So what I recommend that you do is you warn people ahead of time. Not everyone hangs out in groups like this and has real conversations. So everyone just assumes we all react the same way. But if you're not reacting like me, then I think something's wrong. And now I've labeled you as, mean or bossy, or you just don't get it. But how about before you start out on a new project, before you guys head out, before you start in, before the chaos, you're like, hey, here's something you should know about me. I can be a little bit aggressive, or I can be a little bit bossy. But just know it doesn't mean that I don't care. Right? Why would you not warn people about yourselves? Especially my calm cucumbers. You guys, you've got to let people know this, especially people like me. You have to tell us, hey, you know what? The crazier things get, the quieter I'm going to become. But it doesn't mean I'm not thinking about it. I just need a minute I just may need a minute to process what's going on. But it doesn't mean I don't care. You have to tell people this before the chaos, before the crisis hits. Because do you think I'm ever going to convince those people on the side of the road that I didn't mean to hurt their feelings in that moment? No way. They've already labeled me as that. So truly get intentional right now. And then start to think about, why do you do what you do? Why do you do it? Because how am I going to get those people back on the bus? Now, I could use intimidation and just be like, get your ass back on the bus. Right? Which kind of can work, but these days it doesn't seem to work as well. Because what happens is they're going to tell all their friends, don't ever get on Corinne's bus, and they're never going to get on my bus again. Now, I could also coerce them or be like, there's candy on the bus, right? And then they get on and then they're disappointed because, so I'm just saying, if any of you do EOS or have read Traction, right? The right people on the bus, it's kind of a funny story, but it's real. How do I get these people back on the bus? I didn't cause the bus crash. But if I let them sit over there and be upset, what happens? Who are they blaming for this bus crash? Me. And I give them a little bit more time, and they're like, oh my gosh, what about this program? I don't even know what about that hotel last night? That sucked. What about this food, this curriculum, this program? What about this whole organization? You see it happen all the time. So in that moment, it is up to you right now to control the narrative, but authentically. It is not a fake kumbaya, it's all going to be fine, because people don't feel that way right now. That's the embrace the suck. Yes, some of this is hard right now. And then control the narrative. Remind people why they show up. We still are in a place where people are choosing to show up to your place for work every day. They choose. Whether they like it or not, I don't know. They still show up. Some people I talk to, I'm like, you still actually got out of bed and showed up, but you're talking all this stuff like this is the worst experience of your whole life. But they're still choosing you. So ask them, when is the last time you asked your current employees, what do you like about working here? Why did you choose us? Why do you do this? We do a great job in the interviews. Hey, what about our industry? What about this company? What do you know about us? Why are you even interviewing with us? But what about your current people? And it's not that you need to know. It's that they may need to remind themselves right now. They may need to remind themselves that they chose to be here. Did they choose supply chain issues? Did they choose COVID? Did they choose all this stuff that's going on? None of us chose that. But it is happening. And so if they can remember that they chose to be with you, suddenly now there's a little bit more motivation to get back on the bus. Because do those people right now care about the mission that are sitting on the side of the bus on the road crying? They don't care anymore. They don't care about what we were going to do in that moment until they remind themselves that they actually were excited for something. They were wanting to be there. So be really intentional right now. Be intentional in how you're showing up. Be intentional in who you're being. And remember that your strengths sometimes can occur to others as a not so strength. And let people know that about yourself. And remind yourself why you choose what you do every day. Maybe even let your people know that. They may be feeling a little insecure that you may not choose this anymore. So have some real conversations right now, because your team is going to show up just like you. I watch it all the time. Pay attention to that and see what's happening, because that's then how we start to use this chaos to our advantage. But if you don't have any real conversations, if you don't allow people to sort of feel what they're feeling right now, then they just are going to sit in the stewing and in the kind of, now you're getting into the gossip and all the stuff. Let them feel it, and then we move on, right? Then we create what's next. We remember why we're here. That's the advantage. That's how you embrace the chaos. It's never about trying to push it away. It's never about saying, like, this is never going to happen to us. It's saying, can I get into a relationship with chaos that makes me feel motivated, that makes me feel excited, that makes me feel like there's good things on the other side of it? But what about when you bring all these opportunities to people? What do they usually hear? Hey, I got this great idea. We're going to start this new thing. La, la, la. What does everyone else hear? More work. Thank you. I love it. She said, oh, great, more work. It's true. I sit in these meetings, I hear it, and all the leaders are coming in, they're like, oh my God, okay, so this it's so exciting, we're gonna like do, and everyone's like, yay, over here, and the whole team, just observe people's behavior for a while, observe facial expressions, observe their body language. They're like, that just sounds like more work. So here's gonna be the trick. Here's how you do it instead. You're gonna open your meetings with this question. I have been doing this for the past about 3 months with teams, and it changes everything. I'm like, hey, what's something new that you're excited about or looking forward to? At work and in your personal life. Think about it for a minute. Even think about it for yourself. What would you say? What's something new that you're excited about or looking forward to? At work and in your personal life. Who has one? Just shout it out. What? He said, I'm so excited about what? Tell me one. Yeah, so kids are graduating, new changes. Like, give me one of the changes.
Well, let's try to do it better.
Yeah, we're going to do it better because maybe you have a new person that you're bringing on. Like some people, when I do this with teams, I hear things like, actually, we just hired this new, HR manager that I think is going to be really great. Or we just, implemented this new software system, or we updated our website, or we all these things that if I said that to you or you brought it to them, they would be like, that sounds like the worst idea ever. I do not want to update our CRM. Are you kidding me? But if they get to say it, if they get to say what they're excited about, you'll be shocked of what they'll say. And it reminds them of why they're here, because they're already seeing what's possible. They're seeing what potentially could happen on the other side. But don't you bring it to them. Let them share some of the things, because again, they are showing up to be with you. So they are excited about things, and you'll just notice, and you add the personal stuff in, and then it kind of speaks back to why we do what we do, right? Why would we put up with all this stuff? We all have reasons why. We all have other things that make our lives full and rich. And so allowing people to have a little bit of a shift right now and saying, all right, yeah, this isn't how things used to be. No. But I am excited about some of the future changes. I am excited about what's possible. But the only way people can feel excited about what's possible is when they're not afraid of what's going to affect them. So help people feel safe right now. Help people feel secure in these moments. That's our job as leaders. You're already excellent at the doing of your actual work. But now dig in a little bit to the side of the human beings. Dig in a little bit to a little bit more real conversations. And on the tough days, take a big look around. You don't have to get in the hot air balloon if you don't want to. But I want you to look at the big picture. Look at the big picture of where we get to have our chaos. This is a pretty incredible place to have chaos. It's pretty cool to get to choose. It's pretty cool to get to have a day that is like changing all the time. You don't know what's coming, but the outcome is actually usually pretty amazing if we persevere and push through. And like I said, when you think about your life, when you really look back, the things you are most proud of, the things you hold most dear, they always came right on the other side of some of your most challenging, chaotic experiences. So I invite you right now more than ever to keep embracing this chaos, finding ways to break it down into a little bit smaller, manageable mission. And remember that not everyone experiences it the same way. And give a little grace right now to yourself. There's something very interesting about all of you in this room. If you're sitting here, like truly, you have had the most insane 2 years of your entire life. Not just in your business, in your family, in everything. Everything was on you. And here we are, having fun. I'm observing people at the bar last night. We're having great conversations. Like, we are so adaptable and we're so able to endure amazing things. Like, look around, celebrate yourself, celebrate each other for what has gotten you here. Has it been super fun? Not really. Some of it, but that's okay. That's life. But what a place to get to do it. So enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, and just remember, keep running towards the roar because that's where all of our greatest opportunities lie. I thank you for what you guys do, and thank you for having me today. So does anyone have any questions or thoughts before we pass it on to what's next? You have thoughts, questions? The main question I usually get is, well, I'm really good at not avoiding blaming and complaining, but what about everyone else? Again, work on yourself right now, just observe and pay attention to and notice, are you making people feel safe? If they're usually avoiding blaming and complaining because they don't feel safe. Any questions, thoughts, anything you're left wondering? You have a little bit of homework to do, but have fun with it. All right, you guys, have a great rest of your conference, and I will see you tonight at the awards ceremony as your MC for the event, and thank you again. Merci, Corinne. We are both named after our great-grandmothers, and my great-grandmother is also French, and she is named after her great-grandmother, and we both wore blue, so it might be something in my human behavior. So, merci.